In round one of the NFL draft, Lions fans got a very pleasant surprise with the selection of Terrion Arnold. But in round two, the selection left many Lions fans shocked and surprised in definitely not a pleasant way. We're going to talk about it in this episode, folks, so stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, all Lions fans, and welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. So, here's the thing, folks. I'm going to tell you this right now. Depending upon who you ask, depending upon who you talk to, this pick is going to literally stir up a lot of damn controversy. It is going to stir up a literal tidal wave of just back and forth, because I'm going to tell you this right now. I would be willing to bet my bottom dollar that most people out of everybody, I'm not just talking Lion fans, I'm talking everybody, would not have thought that the Lions were going to draft another cornerback at pick 61. There's no way in hell that I would have thought that the Lions were going to do that. I thought the Lions were going to go maybe edge rusher. They might have gone with another offensive lineman to try and supplement depth there, and maybe for development, maybe competition, maybe a wide receiver if they felt good enough about it, something. But there is nothing you could have told me that I would have said, oh yeah, the Lions are going to go and draft another cornerback. Not a chance in this life or the next that I would have said that. Not a chance in this life or the next that I could think of anybody was going to go that route. But the one person who did decide to go that route was the one that was absolutely the one that should have, is making the decisions. And that's Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes decided at pick 61, as we already know, to draft Missouri cornerback Ennis Rakestraw. Now, I'm going to say this. I know for some people, there's a lot of negativity or positivity. There's very, very, very few people that are in the middle, like trying to remain neutral or trying to be like, okay, let's remain objective about this and not go full tilt one way or the other here. That's what I'm trying to do here because, okay, I can look at both sides of this equation here and I can say, I understand where people that are being really positive about this can come from. And I'm seeing where people that are really, really freaking negative about this are coming from. So let's try and be subjective about this as best as we possibly can. Let's take a look at both sides of this equation. Let's take a look at both sides of the fence here. For those that are really positive about this, let's understand the reason why Brad Holmes did this. At least the simplest reason. Again, I always go back to the simplest reason, the most plausible reason is most likely the reason. There's no reason to overcomplicate this. There's no point in trying to find some sort of like deep reason or method when it's like, hey, the simplest explanation is most likely the right one here. Well, what do we know? The Lions last year were horrible, horrendous, pathetic, just absolutely bad when it came to pass defense. When it came to us trying to stop opposing quarterbacks and wide receivers, it would have been almost as if a bear was trying to take a piece of candy from a baby. We had very little opposition when it came to wide receivers. We were horrendous when it came to that category. We couldn't stop quarterbacks. We couldn't stop wide receivers. We literally were like butter, and offenses in terms of passing were a hot knife. We had almost no sort of opposition in that regard. So if you think about it from that perspective, what Brad Holmes has done with his first two picks of the Detroit Lions draft in 2024 makes sense. Hey, you have identified, you have addressed that the cornerback position was a position of weakness. It was a position of need, which was further exacerbated by the fact that you had to let go of Cameron Sutton because he had a run-in with the law. So now you have no cornerbacks in your room that realistically you would call a starting quality caliber cornerback. And I know for a lot of Lions fans, they wouldn't call Cam Sutton starting caliber quality, but I'm just simply saying, out of what we had, he was the best cornerback that we had. So now he's gone. So, okay, you go out and you trade for Carlton Davis. The problem is Carlton Davis only has a 1-year contract left, so you now have to try and get him re-signed. Now, there's no guarantee of that. So what do you try to do? The only thing you can do at this point, because there's really not, I would say, no real good long-term options left in free agency. Again, you're talking about potential 1-year, 2-year rentals. And from what I'm gathering from what the Lions did in the draft so far is they were done with doing that approach. They were done with that option. They wanted to find some long-term, youthful options that could bring stiff competition for more than just a year or two. They wanted guys that would come in and would add some youth and vigor to that position rather than constantly going the veteran option. So it's like, okay, you go out and you get arguably, in my honest opinion, the best cornerback in the draft with a brilliant trade in Terrion Arnold, as I said yesterday. But now you're at pick 61. There's a multitude of ways you could go. But as we know with Brad Holmes, he takes the best player available for what the team needs, what he feels that is going to benefit the team the most. Hence the reason why he drafted Ennis Rakestraw. Because again, I know for a lot of Lions fans, what would have made more sense to them is drafting a pass rusher, drafting a guy that could get after the quarterback opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. I know that's what they wanted. That's what I wanted. That's what I thought made the most damn sense. But we have to think about this here. Which unit performed worse on the defense last year? Was it the pass rushing unit or was it the pass defense unit? The answer to that one's rather damn simple. It was the pass defense unit. Aiden Hutchinson contributed over 100 pressures by himself for the most pressurized defense in the NFL. Our defense had the most quarterback pressures out of every defense in the NFL, which means, okay, we can pressure the quarterback, we just can't sack the quarterback nearly as well yet. Which again, that's why I believe that Brad Holmes went out and made the additions that he did with Betts and also Davenport. He's banking that those guys are going to be enough of an addition to make that difference. He's also banking, I would expect, that James Houston will also be able to help in that rotation. That's what that means to me. Because it's like, okay, you have Houston coming back from injury. You just went out and signed Betts from the CFL. You went out and you got Davenport in free agency. Okay, you've made those additions. Now, if I'm thinking the way Brad Holmes is thinking, I need to find a way to shore up the defensive secondary because we just lost Cameron Sutton. Our other top cornerback is Emmanuel Mosley, who's coming off of 2 ACL tears to opposite knees. And now, what do we have? Well, up until you traded for Carlton Davis, you didn't have anything. Now you get Carlton Davis. Okay, this guy's a nice young corner, but he's only got 1 year left. We need to get something long-term. We need some security. We need some competition, which if you remember correctly, what Brad Holmes said in his press conference, that room now is a competition breeding ground. He called it a bloodbath specifically. So it's like, okay, that's the positive side of things. You've now created a unit that has got a loaded amount of talent in it in terms of Rakestraw, in terms of Arnold, and all this other stuff. So that to me makes a lot of sense from that perspective as why the Lions chose Rakestraw. And let's understand, Rakestraw is not exactly a slouch. He's known as being an extremely smart cornerback, extremely physical and gritty, which, hey, as the hat clearly states, that falls in with Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes' mindset. So it's a fit there. So there's that. Now there's the negative side of this. The ones that take a look at this and all they see is just absolute no, 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 no. This is horrible. This is bad. Not feeling it at all. Let's think about this. I kind of hinted at it when I was talking about the positive side of this. The negative side of this is why would you draft another cornerback when the pass rushing unit, even though it was better than the pass defense unit, still not that good? When are we finally going to add some damn help for Aiden Hutchinson so that way he can get after the quarterback a lot easier rather than just himself? Why is it that we went after Enis Rakestraw when there were other guys that were on the board that could have helped us in other areas? Because I know for some Lions fans, they don't think that Jack Campbell's going to be the guy. Or maybe that Alex Anzalone's not the guy. Why not go after Peyton Wilson, the best linebacker in college at that time? He was still on the board. Why not go after Isaac, the edge rusher from Penn State? He was still on the board. Or Jonah Ellis, the edge rusher from Utah. He was still on the board. I know for some people, they're going to be like, okay, it's not that Enis Rakestraw is necessarily a bad prospect, because he's not. But there were other guys at other positions that the Lions could have used where it would have been like, okay, this I could actually see why you might have gone that route. But grabbing another cornerback when the pass rushing unit is not really being addressed, or from what I would say from some people's perspectives, not addressed enough, is where people are really having an issue with this. The second reason why I know some people are having an issue with this is because it was said during the draft coverage, and even Brad Holmes himself addressed it. Enis Rakestraw has had injury problems in the past. He's had medical problems in the past as far as staying healthy. And if there's one thing I know Lions fans have definitely had their full share of, they are tired of getting players that have injury problems. They're tired of players that are constantly at risk for injury. But you have to understand that's what Brad Holmes does. He's looking for guys that have been discarded, people that are thinking, hey, they might not be able to play. They've got a little bit of chip on their shoulder. Enis Rakestraw definitely at this point has something to prove. Because if I recall correctly, prior to the whole draft process really getting going, Enis Rakestraw was considered one of the top draft prospects for cornerback. Yet somehow he fell all the way to the bottom of the second round. Just think about that one for a second. That's my whole point. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He has something to prove. So that's the other reason why I know Lions fans are not too particularly thrilled about this, at least the ones that are really, really negative about this. You're talking about a guy that's coming out of college that has injury concerns. And cornerbacks are one of those positions, like wide receiver, like running backs, that usually have a higher injury rate. Then there's the other reason. There's the stats. I'm going to say this right now. This is where it kind of becomes a little bit of a problem for me. This is why I try my best to stay in the middle. The reason why I have a problem with Rakestraw and why I had an issue with him when I started my whole draft coverage as far as looking at different players, you take a look at Rakestraw's stats in college, they're not very good. You take a look at all 3 years that he was in as a starter at Missouri. He literally allowed a passer rating to quarterbacks and wide receivers that was in the mid to high 90s. That's not good. You're talking about a guy that's supposed to be very smart, very good at what he does, but yet quarterbacks and wide receivers, they're pretty much having their way with him. If I recall correctly, over the last 3 years, I think he had, one, maybe 2 interceptions versus giving up like 5 to 6 touchdowns. So that's a little bit of a problem for me. It's like, listen, if you can't cover wide receivers or stop quarterbacks in college, what makes you think you're going to do it in the NFL? That's where my whole concern was. That was where my whole problem started with Enis Rakestraw. It's like, dude, there's something wrong with his ability to match up in college that I don't think is going to translate or get better when he gets to the NFL. Now, to be fair, let's also, again, keep in perspective here the fact that Enis Rakestraw is going to have Terrion Arnold with him. He's going to have Carlton Davis with him. He's going to have Aaron Glenn, who's a former Pro Bowl cornerback in the NFL. He's also going to have the cornerback coach, Townsend, if I recall correctly. He's also a former Pro Bowl cornerback. He's going to have a lot of different people that'll help him develop and get better. So the way I look at it is a very, very simple one. Okay. There are 2 ways, like I said, you can look at this. You can take a look at it from the very positive side of things, or the very negative. Or, if you want to be objective and you want to say, slow down a minute, let's think about this half a second. Brad Holmes is trying to make sure that the cornerback room is set, that they have talent, they have depth, they have competition at that room, so that way the defense is finally in a position to not only just compete, but contend for a Super Bowl. And you got to think about it. Why is that important? Well, let's take a look at the fact of who we play just in our own division this year. Oh, that's right. Justin Jefferson just got himself a new quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. Guarantee you Justin Jefferson's still going to be as good as ever. The Bears, let's see. They've got Keenan Allen, they've got DJ Moore, and they just drafted Odonze, pardon me. So you've now got all these wide receivers just in your own division that you have to contend with. And that's also not talking about other guys that are in our own conference, such as Deebo Samuel, for at least the time being. You know, the fact that you still have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in Tampa Bay. You've now got Puka Nacua, and you've also still got Cooper Kupp with the Rams. There's a lot of good freaking wide receiver tandems that are in the NFC that the Lions are going to have to play against if they want to make a run for the Super Bowl. So it's like, yeah, I can understand why Brad Holmes would feel that, hey, we need to get this cornerback room, this cornerback problem solved. That's why I'm saying, I understand why both people are looking at this from one way or the other. Let's stop for half a second, slow down and say, okay, let's take a look at this from the most rational, most simplest perspective we possibly can and say, okay, Brad Holmes drafted 2 cornerbacks. Why? What is the simplest reason why? Hey, he wants to fix the cornerback position and he wants to make sure the defense is able to perform against all these quarterbacks and wide receivers that we're going to have to play not only in our own conference, but in the NFL, because the NFL right now is a pass-happy league. Makes the most sense to me. Is it necessarily the most sexiest perspective? Is it necessarily the one that most people want to hear? Probably not. But I'd be willing to bet you money that it's a lot closer to the truth than just whatever, kind of ridiculous nonsense some people is just going to throw out and say, well, Brad Holmes just didn't have anybody else, or he was kind of this or that. No. Brad Holmes does everything that he does for a reason. There's nothing about that man that is just done in desperation. Brad Holmes did what he did because he felt it was the best thing for the Lions. I believe that to my core foundation bedrock. But anyway, I'm going to get off this because I know this is going to be a conversation that is definitely going to be spanning for the rest of the offseason before we even get into training camp. And in training camp, everybody's eyes are going to be on those corners, Arnold and Rakestraw. But anyway, having said that, I'm going to end the episode, and I just want to say to everybody, thank you all for watching another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you liked what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage you all to watch the next episode. Also encourage you all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If by chance you subscribed in the past, forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and you've not had a chance to do so, again, please subscribe. We're almost to 6,000 subscribers, folks. We are literally right there on the precipice of it. Let's get it done. But in order to ensure that you guys keep coming back, make sure you guys hit that bell notification icon at the bottom so that way you never miss any more content that I'm pushing out. Again, subscription numbers are always going up, but we want to make sure you turn the notification icon on so that way as soon as I push something out, you guys can come right on back. Also encourage y'all to share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. And with that being said, I hope you all have had a great day. I hope you all have something that makes you happy, makes you smile. I hope you all guys and gals are just absolutely having a fantastic, enjoyable experience of the draft. So far I have. I hope you all have one too. Man, I'm so excited, but I'm also tired. And with that being said, I just want to say, everybody, God bless. Hope you all are doing well. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.